Hello and welcome to episode 47 of Life is Horror, a YouTube podcast where I, Mr. Hat, review new horror movies and provide you with some news updates in the genre and wrap each show with either a ranking or a quiz. In today's video, I will be ranking Ty West's filmography, all the ones that I've seen at least, which is about 9 movies, including the VHS anthology that he did a segment in. So, 9 movies, and I'm going to be reviewing Ty West's MaXXXine, which is the third part of a trilogy, part 3. So, how fitting, Child's Play 3 is my background right now. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about MaXXXine, Triple X in the middle, clever title, and also Under Paris, a shark movie, and from France, I believe, and also another European horror movie, The Devil's Bath, which I believe is Austrian. So the Devil's Bath, Under Paris, MaXXXine, and a Ty West ranking. But first, let's talk about. I don't have a whole lot of horror news to provide you with right now, but a couple of sequels and spin offs have been announced. Things like Circles. Yeah, believe it or not, I didn't expect this one. So, Circle, that weird, funny thriller alien movie, sort of. Um, that was on Netflix about 10 years ago is now getting a sequel called Circles. So they're doing what the Alien sequel did, and they just add an S at the end. And I liked Circle because of the humor in it. It was kind of like dark humor, and like everyone's just bickering, like trying to argue who deserves to live or die. Everyone's just getting zapped one by one. So it's just kind of it's a very fast paced movie. It's not a whole lot to it. It's just people in a circle getting zapped by this thing in the middle, one by one. I wish it would have been more graphic the way they died. It's like literally like a lightning bolt hits them and they hit the ground. So it's kind of comedic. It's not like they're getting zapped in the face and their heads explode or something. That would have been cool. But now there's a sequel. I have no idea where they're going to go with it. But I just know it's called Circles. That's the sequel to Circle. And maybe it's going to come out to Netflix like the first one. I would imagine probably in 2025 or 2026 you can expect that to drop. Now, Megan. We already know Megan from 2023 is getting a sequel called Megan 2.0, but now apparently there is a spin-off to that movie called Soulmate. Mate with an 8 number in it. And that's going to be directed by the woman who directed You Are Not My Mother from a couple of years ago. A movie I saw, don't remember a whole lot about it, just thought it was fine. It's not something that I would recommend to anyone. It's just not my kind of movie. But yeah, I know nothing else about Soulmate. Besides they plan to hopefully release it in 2026, like maybe January. But it's going to be it's going to be in the world, I guess, of Megan. So it's more than likely going to deal with technology gone wrong. Someone builds like a love bot. Um, like Colonel Cochran or Connell Cochran in Halloween 3 builds Dan Chalice his own love bot in Halloween 3. Um, so, yeah, something like that. It's just a sex bot that starts killing people that piss off her owner. I don't know. It sounds stupid when I talk about it. It doesn't sound that original, but maybe if they put a lot of humor in it or a lot of funny violence in it and make it rated R. Unlike the first, Megan was PG-13. That was kind of the downfall of that movie for me. I wanted to see Megan fuck people up. So hopefully, I doubt it because it's still Blumhouse. It's going to be another Blumhouse movie, so they'll probably just make it PG-13 January. It's probably not going to do that good, but I mean Megan did pretty good despite being a January PG-13 horror movie, so that was shocking. But I don't know. I just I don't have a whole lot of faith in this movie. It sounds dumb when I read about it. So that's all I gotta say about horror news. So let's just jump into my mini reviews right now. All right, so let's pull up my first review here, and this will be Under Paris, a Netflix film by that one French extreme director who did Frontiers, I believe. Let me pull it up here. I gotta find it here. All right, Under Paris. What was his name? Uh, I don't know. Xavier Jins. Um, I think that's the guy who did Frontiers from like 2008. Good French extreme horror movie. So, in the summer of 2024, Paris is hosting the World Triathlon Championships on the Seine. I think that's how you pronounce that. The sign. For the first time, Sophia, a brilliant scientist, learns from Mika, a young environmental activist, that a large shark is swimming deep in the river. To avoid a bloodbath at the heart of the city, they have no choice but to join forces with Adil, the Seine River Police Commander. So, what do I think about this movie? I went to this with somewhat, high-ish. Not, I don't say high. I went into this expecting a decent shark movie because I was seeing people say like, "Oh my gosh, this is a really great shark movie. This is the best shark movie since like The Shallows or the best since Jaws." Those people are on crack. So fuck those people. This was horrible. I did not like this movie at all, and I'm sorry to my parents who I was hanging out with them and we were on Netflix and I was like, hey, this is getting good reviews. Let's watch this. And so I'm sorry for dragging you guys into this. It was horrible. It's another like climate change, water pollution, shark movie because they all have to be about that nowadays. They gotta have a message. There has to be something that the movie has to say. It can't just be about killer sharks. No, no, no. We gotta preach to the audience about us fucking up the earth and we're to blame for these sharks going crazy. It's every movie nowadays. I have to say that. It's got all the familiar tropes since Jaws, all these similarities to Jaws that the higher ups don't want to listen to the experts. Like we're not gonna listen to you. We need the summer dollars. We can't close down the beach. We're not closing down this river. Fuck you. Even though bodies are piling up, there's so much fucking evidence that suggests that there is something in the water killing these people, but they don't care. But not only is there a giant shark in these waters, not giant, giant, I don't think it's like a megalodon or anything, um, but there's like bombs in the river. I don't know how true that is. That was mind blowing to me. No pun intended. But there's like these bombs literally in Paris that are still there from World War II, and they're still like finding them to this day and picking them up. Like I thought that was crazy. There's a character who says shark bite could have been a boat propeller wound. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's Jaws. You got the skeptical mayor in this movie who says, "I don't believe you." Sound familiar? That's Jaws. They're worried about money. Jaws. Small dog, potentially shark shit later. Jaws. Was its name Pippin? No, I don't think so in this movie. This movie has so many illogical scenes so many scenes where I'm rolling my eyes, so many moronic character decisions, and the like. Adil, was that her name? Like the environmentalist. I don't understand her character at all. She was a big freaking moron. I was glad she was killed. Spoiler, who gives a shit? She's a fucking idiot. She deserved to get shit out of that shark. The characters are poorly written. I watched this dubbed, so that probably made it worse. Something about dubbing just makes it seem extra cheesy and horrible. Like dubbed acting is terrible. I would rather watch a movie with the actual actors on screen doing the performance in their language. Yeah, and they're just cliche characters. And the movie opens up with a shot of trash in the ocean, so you know right away what this movie's trying to say. Um, and yeah, live bombshells, just live bombshells at the bottom of this city, the river. And it's like it would be so easy for them to just go down there and pick up all these bombshells, but they're like, nah, let's just leave it down there. Fuck it. The lead would have died in the open scene realistically. And apparently she can hold her breath for longer than Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible. Like in the opening scene, she gets dragged by the shark further and further than the chicks in 47 meters down. Like she gets dragged like 300, probably 500 feet down within 10 seconds. I'm not a diver, I'm not an expert, but I would imagine that that would kill you. They do show her ears like pop, like there's blood coming out of her ears. And I don't know if your ears would be able to function very good after that, but she seems to have her hearing still for the rest of the movie. I've never had that happen to my ears, but I would imagine that you wouldn't be able to hear good after that or at all. But yeah, she should have been dead. And then she comes back up very quickly too, and it's like the bends. Like she doesn't get the bends. She doesn't die, pass out when getting pulled down that fast by the shark. It's just so unrealistic. This movie ends just as soon as the climax seems to start. Like as soon as the triathlon is getting attacked, like before you know it, the movie's over, and there's no like conclusion. There's no smile, you son of a bitch moment. You think with what they've set up with all these damn bombs at the bottom that they're gonna use those to kill the shark, but the movie just ends suddenly, and the shark's still around. And I guess sequel, they're just setting it up for another movie. I hope this doesn't get more. um, yeah, it was just a very lackluster, horrible ending. It's a little boring, also. And why did they tag the shark and trash in the water? Wait, why did they tag the shark and how did they lose it? Like they lost it for all these years, but this environmentalist lady found it like that. But this main lady who's like an expert somehow lost it. But then also, what was it? I lost my notes. Oh yeah, are they suggesting that the trash in the water is making this shark behave the way it does? I don't understand how that would do anything. But and what are the odds that the shark? Yeah, the opening scene is somewhere hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away from Paris. Like I forget where, like the Indian Ocean or somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, somewhere really, really far away. So what are the odds that the same exact shark that this lady tagged thousands of miles away in a different ocean has somehow found its way to her? It's like Jaws 4. How did they follow the family to the Bahamas or whatever? It's just as ridiculous as Jaws 4, this premise. It's so dumb. And this movie is way too serious. Like, there's so many dumb things in it that you think it's like a joke or should be. Like, this movie should have not taken itself so seriously. It should have just been like a comedy, like a Jaws spoof. Um, and like it almost feels like they're trying to be so bad it's good. That's how bad it is. But yeah, fuck this movie. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Talked long enough. All right, Devil's Bath. So this is from the directors of, I believe, Goodnight Mommy and The Lodge. I liked The Lodge. I wasn't huge on Goodnight Mommy. I thought it was all right, but it's just I saw that twist coming a mile away, like 5 minutes in. So that kind of hurt the experience, but it does get kind of brutal towards the end. So I liked that stuff. But so yeah, um, I liked their other two movies much more than this one. I was not too thrilled on this one. I just I was kind of bored with it. This movie, what it's about is it's 18th century Austria. So it's a period piece. It's villages surrounded by deep forest. A woman is sentenced to death after killing a baby. Wow, so they spoil that. That's like the first like 3 minutes of the movie. This woman's killing a baby just so she can get sentenced to death. Agnes. So then we cut to the main character after that opening baby murder. To Agnes, she's marrying her loved one. Um, Not really. He does not seem to love her for a second in this movie. And candidly prepares herself for a spouse life. Soon after, her head and heart start to feel heavy. Day after day, she is increasingly trapped in a murky and lonely path leading to evil thoughts, maybe not just thoughts. So, like I said, it opens up with baby murder, so I'm on board. I was like, cool, brutal, awesome open. They even show the baby, like, she drops it off a cliff, and we see it, like, hit, like, every rock on the way down. So it's like, holy crap. And she does this just to sentence herself to death because, there's a lot of religious people, especially back then, who believe that if you kill yourself, you'll go to hell and burn forever. So to avoid that, people back in the day of this religion who were suicidal, they would commit a horrible crime that they knew would get themselves hanged or decapitated by a guillotine. And that's in this movie, they do the guillotine thing, or actually, it's just a sword. And so, yeah, she kills a baby in the opening to get herself killed. And so then the main character, I'm sure you can guess where this movie's going after that opening. All right, she's going to start hating life and then probably do something horrible and get herself killed, right? And, there's a character in the middle of the movie who you don't know. It's just some random person who kills himself. And I guess in this time period or this country, if you killed yourself, they talked shit about you at your funeral with your loved ones there crying. The pastor's like up there like, yep, fuck that guy. He killed himself. He disrespected God. Screw him. He's in hell right now. All right, that's the end of our service. Have a good night. Like it was like that bad. And then Yeah, then they would drop your body off into the woods, like in a field, deep out there, just to rot and get, eaten by vultures and shit. Like they completely just disrespected your body if you kill yourself. So that was interesting to see. Could you imagine if we still did that today? Man. Um, it's a historical period piece that claims to be based on real events documented. So I don't know who documented this shit. Um, but it's crazy if this is like real. Like someone, I guess, like who documented this? Like the person, the main character, Agnes, or someone else talking about like all the things that happen in this movie. I don't know. But that's the most interesting part of this movie is the fact that some of this shit really did happen. But the journey there, I was bored. I was quite bored with this movie because it takes a long time for it to even get to like the horror of it. It's just mainly like a drama. Like it's mainly just about showing you what it was like to be a wife back then and just what life was like in general back in the 18th century. Like you just see the kinds of work that they would do, the kinds of houses that they would live in, just what it was like. And it's fucking horrible. I'm glad I was born when I was born because I could not exist before like running water and toilets, proper hygiene. Like you watch these movies and I get so disgusted just looking at them. Like I bet they all stink to high heaven. There's no toothpaste. I don't. Was there? When was that invented? I should look that up. And but yeah, it's just nasty watching these old movies. And so yeah, the husband in this movie just is horrible. I hate him. Not horrible like he beats her or anything. He beats himself, really, if you know what I mean. And in one scene, and just doesn't even touch her. So the whole time I'm just like, why did you marry her? Just because you felt like you had to? Was it like a forced thing? It didn't seem like it. I did enjoy watching their versions of a wedding back in the day. I don't know if this is just this country or whatever. I don't know how many other places do this, but like when you get married back then, you do like the surfing thing. You like ride the crowd. They all like hold you up. Someone probably cops a feel. Like the bride like rides the wave and then they play like this fucked up version of like pin the tail on the donkey but with like chickens and they like or like it's like a fucked up pinata thing actually where they blindfold themselves and they bury like an animal up to its like neck and they have like a stick and they're trying to find the animal to crack its head open. uh, Fun game. I should do that my next birthday. I wonder if anyone would mind. Like, all right, today we're gonna be bashing this chicken over the head. Put this blindfold on, because I said so. Don't question it. Um, the score I thought was fantastic in this. I thought it was quite unsettling at times. Very of the time period which it's set in. Very like folksy sounding. And also, yeah, it takes a very long time for anything to get going. It's definitely a slow burn, and it's just a drama until the climax of the movie, and then you get a brief moment of gore, and then it's just over, and it's predictable where it's going. In the poster, they actually show it's spoiling something that happens very late in the movie. It's something that I guess they would do back then, um, to kind of like an acupuncture of sorts. Like some kind of like therapy, if you will. Something that would help you mentally, putting a string through the back of your neck like a stitch and then out the other side and you would take both sides of the string and like saw it back and forth. What's this look like? Jesus. She would do that in this movie to like relieve stress or something or help. I don't know. And that was an interesting kind of gross visual, but I just was not that into this movie. It wasn't very engaging. I didn't give a shit about the main character. I didn't give a shit about anyone, so that was my problem. It's just long, uneventful, and so. But yeah, I do think the movie, like visually, like the look of, the setting, it was very like moody. It's dark. It's a depressing feeling movie for sure. It's very depressing. But yeah, atmospheric woods and the waterfall and shit like that. It looks good at times, but I needed more from this. I needed to care about this character, but just I understand. Like you're immediately like at the wedding at the beginning, and I'm like, how do these two meet? Why did he marry her? He clearly doesn't love her. Why does she love him? And by the end of the movie, I still am asking those questions. Like, what brought them together? So, yeah, just wasn't into it, but fine movie, technically well made. So, 2.5 out of 5 is just not anything I would ever rush back to. So, let's get to the main event now. MaXXXine Triple X. So this is a movie that I was looking forward to because I liked X, liked it more on rewatch, and really liked Pearl. That was pretty high up on my ranking of that year. And, Pearl I liked more than X. And when I heard that this one was going to be different than those two, this was going to be like a murder mystery, Giallo esque type of film. Saw the trailer, the Black Glove Killer and all that stuff out, and set in the mid 80s and stuff at Hollywood. That had me hooked. I was like, all right, you got my money. So I went into this with somewhat high expectations, liking the previous two and having Mia Goth come back. So I knew I was gonna like this movie, but I was hoping I was gonna love this movie, and I just ended up liking it. And the reason why is because the things that I was wanting from this movie, I just didn't really get a lot of or any. And this movie focused on things that I didn't expect them to focus on for so long. And, so if you're going into this thinking it's like this murder mystery, Giallo, it's a very small part of it, really. Um, but anyway, so yeah, it's a murder mystery with a Giallo-like killer set in 1985 Hollywood. Mia Goth knocks it out of the park again with her performance. She's the shining light in this movie. Unfortunately, it's just a predictable mystery with a disappointing last act. They captured the 80s aesthetic quite well in this. 80s Hollywood, all the cars, the outfits, Judas Priest shirts, stuff like that. Some scenes take place at a VHS rental store with the porn section in the back, stuff like that, and the kills use practical effects like they would have to in 1985. And there isn't a lot of kills or gore, but then again, there wasn't a whole lot of that in the other movies, especially X. And there was a lot of gun kills in that movie, and there's a lot of gun kills in this one too. So that's another problem. You're not gonna get a lot of slashing. You're gonna get a lot of shooting. Um, there, but there is some gore in this, some gross out moments, and just not a whole lot. And yeah, the killer is a mystery supposedly, but you can guess who the killer is going to be in this movie if you've seen X and you know everything you know about MaXXXine, her past, everything, and you can just watching those last two movies, I'm sure you can guess who the killer is going to be in this movie, and they kind of let you know early on in the first act of the movie who it's going to be, and then that's who it is, and they give you no clues, like like no red herrings and no clues for other people. This isn't like a murder mystery where you're like constantly like a Scream film, like this person, this person, this person. It's just like, no, it's this person and that person alone, but we're still gonna act like we're still gonna keep them in the shadows and just show the black gloves and put the big old hat on them and keep them in the shadows, and then boom, reveal at the end, surprise. And it's not a surprise at all. So that's the biggest letdown for me, because I went into this expecting a typical, you know, giallo mystery where they throw all these different possibilities at you, like, oh, this person, this person, this person. But the whole time I was just like, no, it's just this person, and that's who it was. So I was like, oh, that's a letdown. And I was expecting a few more kills in this, a little bit more of the Hollywood sets and movie within the movie kind of things in this, but most of the movie is just MaXXXine and Kevin Bacon. For a good, like, big, like, the whole second act is really just her and Kevin Bacon meeting Kevin Bacon. And, when you meet him, he's this, he's a detective. He's hired to find people, and he finds MaXXXine for his employer. Who's the employer? Well, obviously, it's going to be the killer. So, he's worked Kevin Bacon. He meets MaXXXine, and then he's stalking her, and then she's running away from him, and then she's has to fight back and confront Kevin Bacon. And like, that's just a huge section of the movie where there's like no kills, and a couple of kills are just aftermath things. The police find the bodies. And so, like I said, like, the whole murder mystery slasher aspect of it just feels small. It's just MaXXXine and Kevin Bacon for a good portion of the movie. And I like Kevin Bacon. I love him. And I like his character in this movie, his performance. I thought he was another, good at part of the movie. Him and Mia Goth were great, some of the best parts of the movie. But I didn't want so much of that. I wanted the other stuff. The Bates Motel, that's in the trailer. Because it's set in Hollywood. They're at the studio where the Bates Motel is at Universal Studios. They walk on set of the Bates Motel, so that was cool. It was just like a quick 1 minute scene, so I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a nice treat for horror fans. And the cinematography, the look of the movie, the editing by Ty West, you know, very top notch. Very great stuff. A lot of cool tracking shots, kind of Martin Scorsese like, just following Mia Goth around, and I liked that stuff. And also, yeah, it's not a scary movie at all. I feel like X is more of a horror movie than this. This is more like a thriller, with some horror in it at the end. But you know, X is definitely more like horror, more like scare sequences, suspense, hiding underneath the bed with the killers on the bed, and stuff like that. Even though that was a little funny, also because they're having sex, but this felt like there was no attempts at like setting up suspenseful sequences, no tension really. It was just like, all right, here's Kevin Bacon. We're run away from him. He's being weird. And then, like there's no scares in the movie. Like I said, very low body count. Like a Giallo, they have cop characters who aren't really the main focus. They're not the ones doing all the investigating. It's the main character who's not a cop investigating, like a Giallo, usually, and especially like an Argento one. But in those old Gialli, you would have like a goofy comical, like comic relief cop character, and you get one in this movie. I forget the actor's name, but he was funny. I liked him. um yeah, I just have one question, and it never got answered in this movie, unfortunately, and that is the tape early on. I guess beginning of the second act, somewhere around there. The killer drops off a tape. How, to Mia Goth, and how did he get that tape? Why wouldn't that tape be with police? Why wouldn't that be police evidence? And like, how did he get the tape? And why wouldn't Maxine take that tape? Like, why wouldn't she have destroyed that tape? I'll just say what the tape is. It's the porno from X. All right, so the killer drops off the porno from X, and so you're just like, okay, so she left that at the crime scene, and the cops don't have that. The killer does. So that just made no sense. So that question was never answered, unless I missed it. Let me know. Um, yeah. So yeah, there's no jump scares in this movie, but I like that. I don't want a bunch of jump scares. I don't like that. But I do like suspense, and like I said, this movie didn't really try to build suspense with like any death scenes or anything, and there's a little amount of that. So, but aesthetically, performances, the 80s setting, practical effects, some of the gore, when you do get it, looked great. Camera work, editing, all that stuff, great. So I can't rate it too low. I was disappointed, but overall, it is a good movie. So I would rate it a 3.5 out of 5. But just lower your expectations. I don't think it's anywhere near as great as Pearl was, and I think X is also better than this one. I just like all those characters better in that one. Um, a lot of the secondary characters in this aren't really focused on, like the guy at the video store and her lawyer. They just have a couple of scenes here and there. It's mainly just, like I said, it's all about Mia Goth in this movie, her character, Maxine, and Kevin Bacon seems to be in it a lot. And so yeah, it's just him. It's just them two for the most part. So let's get to, I guess, the ranking now, real quick. I didn't write any notes down. Why am I at number 4? Hold on. So yeah, my ranking. There's gonna be 9 movies total. Like I said, VHS is going to be included because why not? So let's get going. Number 9. All right, is going to be The Roost. So this is Ty West's first movie, and it's about bats. A bunch of bats. I saw it for the first time over 6 months ago or so, within the last year, and I didn't like it. This is like the one movie from him that I just didn't like. at all. So it's just not my thing. But it has the guy from House of the Devil in it, Tom Noonan. I think I remember seeing him in this. Don't remember a whole lot about it. It's just very low budget, very low budget, um, and not a lot of fun. And so VHS, the segment in this one from Ty West is the worst segment in this movie. Um, but I would rather watch this than The Roost again because at least this one's only like 20 minutes long. It's a short film. So there you go. That's number 8. Number 7, The Innkeepers. And a lot of these movies I've only seen, in the next few I've only seen like once. And the Roost I've only seen once. So maybe I'll like this one more on rewatch. Who knows? But this one was just a little too slow for my liking. I liked the main characters in the movie, but it's just kind of it's a haunted house or haunted hotel movie that just didn't have a whole lot going on. It's another Ty West slow burn. He seems to like to make slow burns, but MaXXXine wasn't very much of a slow burn, and neither was X. But when he first started, it seemed like he liked to make slow burns. Like Innkeepers was slow, and House of the Devil was slow, and this one was just a little too slow and uneventful for my liking. So number 6 is The Sacrament. This is Ty West's found footage movie or documentary type of film, and it's based on the Jonestown incident, and like it pretty much rips it off without saying that that's what it is. But that is essentially what it is. People drinking the Kool-Aid. They just changed the names, and but this movie is nowhere near as scary as the real thing. Like what really happened is much more brutal, and the body count was much more higher. It was just much more crazier than what you got in this movie. So I would just recommend watching a Jonestown documentary or reading about it, and that's better than this movie. But I still overall enjoyed it. It was okay. It's like a 3 out of 5, but it's just not as. I think they made a mistake by not making it as crazy or crazier than the real thing, or they should have just, since they're basically trying to copy a lot of stuff that happened at Jonestown, why not make it officially a Jonestown movie? Was it like a legal thing? They couldn't do that? I don't know. Number 5, The House of the Devil. This is a lot of people's favorite Ty West movie. It seems a very high rated film, but again, it's just a slow burn. I like the aesthetic of it, the 70s, late 70s, early 80s style of it, the title card, all that stuff. The main actress in this movie, forget her name, is it like Donahue? Jocelyn? Um, she was great, but this movie, I think, and it's got a surprising kill in the middle that comes out of nowhere. That was great. I'll always remember that. But my problem with this movie is just the ending. I feel like it's rushed and the character gets away too easy. So that's the big downfall of this one. Number 4 is MaXXXine. Already talked about it. Don't need to say anything else. You already heard my thoughts. So let's just move on. Number 3, X. Have I reviewed this movie? I think I did. On an episode of Life is Horror. I don't think I did an official Mr. Hat's movie review of this because I think I stopped at that time. But whatever. Yep. Again, I didn't like how many gun kills there were in this. I wish there would have been a couple more cool kills in this. Less guns, more, slasher type weapons. But I liked the characters in this movie. All the performances and the style of it. I feel like the last few movies, Ty West has been getting much more better at, framing, cinematography. He has a great cinematographer with him, and he knows how to get cool shots in his movies. And I just feel like with each movie, he's getting a little bit better at that since X. And yeah, I just love it. And also my number 2 will be Pearl. That's right. This is technically his best movie, but it's not my favorite. But this is his best. This is my favorite of the trilogy. Mia Goth, I think this is her best performance in the trilogy. Just again the style, editing, the period piece, how they capture that look and feel in this one. That sequence with the scarecrow and that realistic looking beheading and that long monologue and the end credits, like that's like iconic to me now. Like that will go down in history as some of the best end credits in any horror movie. So yeah, I've talked about this movie before, so let's just move on to my number 1. My favorite, not the best, but my favorite is Cabin Fever 2. I'm sure Ty West would like to distance himself from this movie. I heard he doesn't like it, or maybe there was studio meddling or something. Like maybe they changed it and someone else took over directing. I don't know. I haven't done that much reading into it, but I remember hearing that he does not like this movie. But I love it. This movie was so much fun. This is a gross out, gory as hell, just balls to the wall, crazy film from beginning to end. Lots of humor, gross out humor, and fast paced. It's just my kind of movie. It's a lot of fun, and I love the first Cabin Fever. It's my favorite Eli Roth movie. So I just love that film. So I really like this one. This is the last good Cabin Fever movie. They made a third one, sucked, and then they did a pointless remake. So avoid that one. This is easily the best sequel. I think we can all agree on that, right? Hopefully, right? And if you haven't seen it because of its IMDb rating, but you like the first one, I would recommend seeing it. This is fun. If you like just goofy, over the top, like gross out, because it's about like a flesh eating disease. So there's a lot of gross stuff, and I think someone's like balls falling off or something like Tarantino in that one Planet Terror movie. Remember something like that? The guy gets the disease on his dick, and there's just a lot of gross stuff. There's too many gross things to mention here. So, and there's like cool animated opening credits and closing credits. Also, I believe they kind of like set up the story, explain like how this like flesh-eating virus got there from the location one to this one, and there is a recurring character, a returning character from part one, the cop, that goofy as hell cop from the first one. He's in this, and it's just a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It's Cabin Fever 2 at a prom. It's changing the setting from a cabin in the woods to like a high school prom, and it's just so freaking fun. I don't understand why people don't like this. If you just don't like gross things or goofy things, then I guess that's why. If you don't like that, then you won't like this movie, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, but if you do, definitely check it out. Don't look at the rating, ignore that. It's much better than that. So, that's my ranking. Number one, Cabin Fever 2. So, yeah, the next video I do should be A Quiet Place Day 1. I said this video would be A Quiet Place Day 1, but MaXXXine literally just came out, and it's already been over a week since A Quiet Place Day 1, so it's kind of late for that. I want to talk about this movie while it's still fresh out there. So I saw the early access Wednesday preview for this movie. So and yeah, so definitely let me know what you think in the comments below if you want to. That's what it's for. Let me know. And adios, everybody. See you in the next video.